We have breaking Titans news for you right here on Titans Today by Chat Sports, as Brian Callahan has officially been named the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He will lead them in the charge on the way to 2024. This all coming right in the last couple hours. We appreciate you joining us here. I'm your host, Jace Andrews, and let's get to the official report coming from Adam Schefter. News breaking just literally moments ago, saying the Titans are working to finalize a deal to hire Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan as their next head coach, per league sources. We talked about Callahan. He was one of the first guys the Titans interviewed, and now he is going to be their head coach going to 2024, leading Will Levis and the rest of the Tennessee Titans. And I'm telling you, this is exactly why you subscribe. News breaks, guess what? We're in the studio within 30 minutes filming a video for you and making sure you are up to date and know exactly what the Titans are getting with Brian Callahan and everything happening in this offseason with the Titans having a lot of money to spend, a lot of free agents. Hit that sub button because the coverage doesn't stop here. We're going to have you covered all offseason long with Brian Callahan and how he builds this new Titans squad. We talked about Callahan earlier in today's show. If you missed that one, well, we got you covered because here is his history in the NFL. He was an offensive assistant for the Broncos from 2010 to 2015, doing things like helping the quarterbacks out, doing a lot of different things with the Broncos, and just getting that borderline baseline experience, you would say. Past that, he was a quarterbacks coach for the Lions and the Raiders. The Lions from 16 to 17, then in 18, coaching the QBs for the Las Vegas Raiders, then becoming the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2019, where he has been for now a long time. In fact, so long, he is actually the longest tenured OC, or at least was, because with the dismissal of Pete Carmichael in New Orleans, well, he was the longest tenured OC. Obviously not anymore because he is now a head coach with the Tennessee Titans. But I think that speaks to a great magnitude of the kind of person he is, the ability to stay with an organization for that long and overall improve them day in, day out, no matter who was on the field. You obviously have playmakers with the Bengals. You have T. Higgins. You have Jamar Chase. You have Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd. But I think what speaks to him more is the way he was able to make Jake Browning look like an amazing quarterback this year. In fact, I like to go to this report. We've shown it a lot on the show, but I think it's so important and the reason why Callahan is the Titans head coach. This coming from John Sheeran, a Bengals reporter, saying Callahan is a crucial reason why Joe Burrow has developed properly and why his backup, Jake Browning, was able to come off the bench and put up impressive numbers this past season. Other teams surely have noticed that by now, and Callahan's influence has done for the Bengals. Of course he has, and on top of which, he has 14 years of experience at 39 years old. Listen, I know that we all liked Mike Vrabel, and there was a lot of good stuff that he did. But if you look at Brian Callahan, the positives are all there. 14 years of experience, he's young. He understands how to develop a quarterback. Guess what? You got Will Levis. You're going to bet on him? Brian Callahan can help you out with that. You got a young offense that you're trying to really mold. Tajay Spears, who has looked good. Peter Skoronski at the guard. You're going to probably draft Joe Alt or Olufashanu in the draft. You want to try to build this offense up to a high-caliber offense because in the AFC South, you've got C.J. Stroud. You've got Trevor Lawrence. You've got Anthony Richardson, who will come back next year. This is going to be an offensive-heavy AFC South, and Brian Callahan will help you compete every single year. The Bengals offense this year wasn't exactly the greatest. There's a lot of stats that I think were subpar. He had 22nd in the yards per game, averaging 318, 21.5 points per game, which was 16th in the NFL, so right about middle ground. Passing yards was middle ground. The one area where it kind of was a rough patch was the rushing yards. I want to defend him a little bit here and say that Joe Mixon did a lot of receiving, and Chase Brown also developed into a really, really good running back this year. He kind of reminds me of Tajay Spears, which is kind of nice because you now have Tajay. And the big thing here, there was a lot of moving pieces. You had T. Higgins, who was injured a little bit. You had Jamar Chase, who was injured a little bit. You had Joe Burrow, who got injured and was taken out for the rest of the season. A lot of things to talk about here that I think are maybe bigger reasons to why this offense didn't work other than Brian Callahan. The reason I like this hire, I think, is the biggest one. Callahan was the first coach that the Titans really showed interest to. He was one of the first requests to interview, and if my recollection is right, he was the first guy to be interviewed by the Tennessee Titans, and now they get him as head coach. If you can get your first option as your head coach, then do it. Obviously, you have to trust Amy Adams-Strunk, the owner. You have to trust GM Rand Carthen that this was the decision that they wanted, and they got it right off the bat. They interviewed him. They liked him. They did a second interview. Now, he's your head coach. I like it because, again, that quote, he was able to develop Joe Burrow. He was able to develop Jake Browning. What do you have? A young quarterback that is coming off a pretty decent rookie season and just 9 games played, having 8 touchdowns, nearly 2,000 yards, and a QB rating upwards of 80. Will Levis is the future of the Titans, at least for this upcoming year. And I think if the Titans want to give him a fair shot, they got to fill up this offensive line and give him a coach. One of those was made true today. You got him an offensive coach in Brian Callahan, and on top of which, now you got to fix up that line. Plus, the biggest key to all this, Brian Callahan's offense is similar to what Kentucky runs. And if you know why that's important, well, it's because that's where Will Levis went to college. He was a Kentucky Wildcat, and his offense there is going to be very similar to what Brian Callahan will implement with the Tennessee Titans. I think that's a good thing because you want to be comfortable with what you have, and overall, it seems as though we're going to have that with Will Levis coming in here and being able to run into an offense that he already knows basically like the back of his hand. It's also going to be similar to Penn State. That is where Will Levis came from. Penn State, Kentucky, now Tennessee, you get Brian Callahan. I think it's a good thing. Now, I'm telling you what, if you're excited about the Tennessee Titans hiring Brian Callahan, well, then do me a favor, hit that subscribe button because we're going to have the latest on Callahan and his moves, his introductory press conference, everything you need to know about Brian Callahan as he makes his transition to Tennessee, to Nashville, to become the Titans head coach. Well, then guess what? We're going to have you covered right here, so hit that subscribe button if you're excited for this hire. Coaching also runs in the family with Callahan because obviously 14 years of experience, 39 years old, it's really, really good. But it adds to the fact when your dad was a head coach, when your dad has coached the NFL for quite some time, and I say quite some time, he's been doing it pretty long and pretty well. We go to this report from the Tennessean on Bill Callahan, his father, saying, Callahan comes from a coaching family. His father is Bill Callahan, offensive line coach for the Cleveland Browns and former head coach of the Oakland Raiders from 2002 to 2003 and the University of Nebraska in 2004 to 2007. So Bill Callahan, he is the Browns offensive line coach. What does this mean? Well, it probably means that he is going to become a somewhat, I don't know to what extent, but he will be taken from the Browns to the Tennessee Titans. That is kind of what I'm seeing right here because overall, when your father is a head coach in the past, when he has the knowledge that he has, and when he has an offensive line coach with a top-tier AFC team, I mean, the Browns, if you take away a couple injuries this year, could be in a potential AFC championship game right now instead of the Ravens, could potentially be in the divisional, could have done a lot of different things. I feel like talking to people in the area and talking to our Browns hosts here at Chat Sports, it seems as though Bill Callahan will be moved from the Cleveland Browns to the Tennessee Titans. Do we know to what extent? Do we know if it'll be offensive coordinator? Do we know if it'll be a line coach? Do we know if it's going to be an offensive analyst? I don't exactly know, but if Rand Carthen and Amy Adams-Strunk give Brian Callahan the ability to go out there and kind of mold his staff a little bit more than he wants, then that's exactly what we have. So we're going to talk about the latest on Shane Bowen, all that and that stuff coming up in later shows, kind of say if they are going to stay with the Titans or if they're going to allow Brian Callahan to construct his entire offense and defensive scheme. But we have to ask you this question before we head out of here. Do you like this hire? Because ultimately, this is what matters. It's not about if it's the right hire. Obviously, you want them to win, but for the Titans nation, for Titans fans, it's the most important for y'all because it's your team. We want to make sure that the Titans fans are happy. So, are you happy with the Brian Callahan hire? Type Y for yes if you are happy. Type N for no if you're thinking, nah, I wanted somebody else. I wanted Ben Johnson. I wanted somebody, just let me know. But Y for yes, N for no. We certainly appreciate you watching. And like I said, we're going to keep you covered all offseason. The coverage does not stop here. Y for yes if you like Callahan, N for no. Without further ado, Titans Nation, peace out.